I have 6:30. I think Susanna is still trying to get on. She was on and then I think she bumped off. So let's just get it started. So at least this stuff is out of the way. So this is the Park Commission. There she is. This is the Park Commission meeting for April 28th. In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and will be broadcast live or will be broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access Channel, and that this meeting of the Lunenburg Park Commission is being conducted remotely. Accordingly, for those that are participating via video, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and to take care not to screen share your computer. Anything you broadcast may be captured by the recording. The town of Lunenburg, in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, is currently following the guidance from the Lunenburg Board of Health, Mass Department of Public Health, CDC, regarding the virus and steps communities can take to prevent the spread. In accordance with the governor's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, all public meetings are being conducted remotely. The order you can find posted on the town website on the COVID-19 information page allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of this meeting. And as always, we will be having public comment as part of this meeting. All right, so in attendance tonight, we have Chris Sullivan.
Present.
Awesome.
You're
Anna.
saying,
Yes, Anna, are you on?
I'm on.
Great. Dave Passios.
Yes, I'm here.
Susanna Jewell. And our DPW director, Rob Olive, is back on as well. And we have one guest. Jared, if you have anything you want to chime in, feel free to chime in at any point. You don't need to wait for public comments. The first thing on our agenda is, do we have any public or board comment that wants to kick off this meeting?
I have a public comment. I saw, this is general, but I saw on social media a few different posts of parents looking for information on various Little League information or parks information. And I was hoping to make a public comment to ask if possibly Kayla could compile that information into our website so it can be one resource for all parents, all residents.
Okay. I will make a note. Kayla's not on yet. Hopefully she'll be joining us in a little bit. She had something at 6:15. So, but yep, that's a good idea. We used to actually have that information on the town website. I actually think it's still on the town portion. I just don't know if it was carried over to the new Lunenburg Recreation page, but we can certainly ask her to add that. Great. Does anybody have anything else? All right, so the next up is minutes. I'm not sure how to handle this first one, guys. At the last meeting, February 12th was approved and those minutes are not yet ready. So I guess let's just leave it as is, and then hopefully the next meeting we'll have those February 12th minutes ready and we can rescind the previous vote and accept a new motion for those. But the March 29th meeting minutes were completed and everybody should have gotten them in their email. Does anybody have any questions, concerns, or changes?
Nope.
Right. Could I get a motion to accept those minutes?
motion to approve.
Second.
Any comment before we do a roll call? All right, Chris.
Sorry about dropping the ball on February 12th.
Aye.
My bad.
Not a problem. Anna? You still with us, Anna?
Sorry, I was on mute. Yes, I.
Thank you. Dave?
Aye.
Susanna?
Aye.
And it's an aye for myself. So those minutes are done. Susanna, if you need me to help finish those, I'm happy to do so, you know.
Don't. It's just been a crazy couple of weeks.
Yeah, no problem. No problem.
I was an office day.
Okay, no problem. All right, so Kayla's not with us right now. She may have an update when she comes on later. Rob, do you have anything you want to update us on before we jump into the maintenance policy?
Sure, I have a couple of things.
Great.
So this morning I met with the owner of B&B Fence Company out at Marshall Park. We walked around the park. We looked at all the fence that Joe and I had flagged that's in need of repair. So he's going to get me a quote for hopefully for Friday. He said it's all relatively simple, easy work. I also asked him to include over on the Little League field, there's a few sections of the fence topper that's missing. So I asked him to take care of that as well. So I should get a price on that. He says it's all small, relatively simple work. What he plans on doing is he's out straight, but he says that's the type of project he can do in an afternoon. So if he has a project that wraps up early one day, if we've given him the go ahead, he'll just head over and do the work. So I hope to get that done sooner rather than later.
Awesome.
And he seemed very good. He's done work for town in the past. I believe he did all the fence work at Wallace when that was done. So he knows the town. He's from Leominster, so seemed like a real good guy.
Rob, can I interrupt for just a second?
Sure.
Just wondering if you guys caught the broken hinges on the gate.
Yep.
Would be on the softball field, outfield. Yep. Yeah, okay, great. Thank you.
Yep, we walked all the fields and looked at them. We picked up that. We've got the black fence on Chestnut Street along the baseball field in two places along the length of the first base line, and then the post that apparently someone probably backed into or something. So he got pretty much all of it, and he didn't think it was any of it was a big deal. So hopefully comes in at a nice reasonable price. The other thing is the landscape bid. We have a low bidder. Julie is now going through and calling references. It's a company from Leominster. I think it's New England Acreage is the name of the company. So we're vetting them out and hopefully getting that contract all settled. That does kick in July 1st when they would start. In the meantime, we've scrounged up our mowers and equipment to start mowing, which I think needs to be done now because I was out on McNally today and it looked like it could be mowed. So we're gonna do the mowing and trimming and stuff up until July 1st when they start. So hopefully we'll be working on that soon. We've already gone out and done some cleanup work. I noticed today the T-ball field still needs to have leaves cleaned up, and there's some other areas. But the guys were out. They had done the Little League field. I know Joe from the Phillies has been working on the main baseball field at Marshall. So things are starting to grow and green up, and I think the fields will be in pretty good shape. And then hopefully in July, when this new firm comes on board, they'll get right to it. I've heard good things about them from a couple of different references already. So fingers crossed we get a good job out of them. That's pretty much all I have. I can answer any questions if you have any.
Rob, is that a 12-month contract?
I believe it's a 1 year with an option for renewal up to 3 years.
Yeah, okay. I was just more concerned about this, hole in the system right at the moment where you guys are responsible for what should be covered under a maintenance contract. So
yeah, and we're going to do the best we can, and that was a decision I made. We were going to seek out maybe someone to fill in for the moment, but the guys are, they actually were looking forward to hopping on a mower and doing some work. They just don't want to be responsible for it, for the full summer. So we'll fill in as best we can and hopefully leave it in good shape for when the landscaper comes on board.
okay, great. One other quick question. Have you got any feedback yet on the surveying for Marshall Park?
I had reached out a while back to Whitman and Bingham about the survey, and unfortunately Jamie is sometimes hard to reach, and I have not heard back from him, but he did say that they had done some work out there previously, so they would have some control out there as far as the survey work goes. So I'll reach out to him again and see if I can get him to, he was going to give me a ballpark price to survey the whole thing. And I'm sure he's very busy and gets sidetracked. So I'll give him another ring.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep.
Yes. All right, so the next thing up on our agenda is the maintenance policy that we have discussed, and we have Rob here to sort of help with some guidance of that. Anna or Chris, do either one of you want to sort of run with this, or do you Would you prefer me to?
Certainly can speak speak to it a little bit. Rob, thanks for sharing the maintenance bid. That kind of sheds a little bit of light. Off of that, what we're trying to establish is who would be responsible for, whatever period of time we determine is appropriate in terms of looking at regular check-in of all the parks, looking at the fencing like you were just looking at, making sure gates are working appropriately, making sure the fields are in good condition, making sure Veterans Park is, presentable, but trying to determine what the proper channels are for that, how it can be reported, how it can be logged, how we can receive feedback on what things need to be done, and then establish kind of timelines on when those any sort of repairs or issues would be addressed and kind of cleaned up and fixed and so forth. So that's kind of what we're aiming for. So that's from your, I don't think there really has been any direction in the past in terms of a central spot where it's reported to, and then kind of push back to this committee. So we're in the loop, on a regular basis of what any sort of repairs are, that are needed in our parks, and then just making sure things are taken care of. So I think in the past, someone reaches out to Karen, someone reaches out to Kayla, someone reaches out to, they send a general parks email, and it just kind of drifts. And I think we've hoped that it all gets taken care of, but we want to make sure we centralize it and establish some sort of guidelines of who would be the person to kind of look at the parks, what are the things that we should be looking for, and then set up a kind of timeline on things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately it falls on the DPW. So I would be ultimately responsible to, respond at a minimum. I think, being proactive, I'm not sure that's been the case in the past. I think it's probably been more reactive. I'm certainly not opposed to, and I honestly, since I've been in town and since the snow's been gone, I try to make it at least weekly, swing through the parks, see if anything's up, anybody's dumping trash, just to have my eyeballs on it. And I'll probably continue to do that. I mean, quite honestly, I like to get out of the office. I don't like sitting behind the desk all day. So walking through the parks is certainly gives me an opportunity to get out of the office, but look at things at the same time. I had gotten a call from someone about the solar lights at Veterans Memorial Park at the flagpole, and so I took a look at those. So
Sorry, the dog.
I've got Kit Walker, my facility superintendent, trying to come up with a way to fix those and basically make the lights a little bit more stable as they're right on the ground. So I would be in favor, of having a standard operating policy for the parks that included, routine inspections. I honestly don't have, what's a good timeline for you, other than, a weekly visual inspection, or even talking to my guys, because they do go out there for certain things to look at things, fix things. As long as everything's being reported back to me and someone's handling it, or I can assign it to someone, or in like with the fences, Karen reached out to me about that. As long as I know and we can handle it. But I do understand it would be better to be proactive on these things and haven't had that fence already known about, log that there's a need and get it done. So, I'm open to your suggestions. I don't have a 100% good answer on the way things are done or how other towns handle, this kind of thing. Where we're not out there regularly mowing and maintaining the fields and the parks, sometimes it's hard to know when things have gone downhill, or something's happened, or someone smashed a bottle in the outfield, or things like that. So I think the inspections are definitely important. I wouldn't be opposed to, keeping a log of things that I find or make notes of stuff, and periodically reporting to you what I found, what's been done, So, you know, I don't have any real problem with that. It's the question is just how do you do it? What kind of frequency, you know, what types of tasks are on there? What are we exactly looking for? I mean, I don't see myself checking fences and gates every time I'm out there, other than, you know, the big things that stand out. Geez, you know, somebody drove through one onto the field, so we've got a lot of work to do. I think the things we found out there now with the gates and, you know, being off their hinges, and that was a lot of wear and tear over the years. And it's just, you know, fences don't always hold together and last forever. So, you know, things like that get caught over time. But, you know, in looking at your, just the summary, the Word document that someone had produced, you know, taking a stab at a policy, you know, even like playground equipment. There's a lot going on with playground equipment. So I don't know, you know, that I'm really qualified to look at playground equipment and say, well, you know, other than there's a nut or a bolt missing, or I found a sharp edge, you know, I think between myself and whoever wants to on the commission contribute, some research needs to be done on, you know, perhaps someone's done this already in other towns, and it's a simple matter of, you know, I find it, or, you know, we Google it and find some good information. But I think what you've done is a good start, and I think we can try and run with it and, you know, define how data will be collected. I think simply on my end, it's probably just, I keep a notebook and stuff gets recorded and eventually reported to you, whether it's monthly or however, you know, you think might work. But I think noting it and then taking care of it is that's the biggest thing. And if we want to come up with a frequency on it, or a standard operating policy on how to do it, or, you know, who should be doing it and when. Yeah, I mean, we can, I think we can all work on that together and come up with something, and that makes my life easier, because, you know, I'm reminded at times of, geez, I need to go take a look at this once a year, or, you know, make sure the irrigation systems in some of the places are being winterized, and, you know, have a checklist for seasonally things that need to be done. Because right now I haven't seen anything like that. So for me, it's going to help me do my job better, and hopefully not just relying on, like, you know, Kit does some of the turning on the irrigation systems and getting things up and running. And, you know, if he leaves tomorrow, I've lost that, and I don't know when he does it or where parts are. And so I think it's good to have stuff written down, and it's just, you know, how much or how little, or, you know, and how often. Some things are seasonally, I'm sure, while other things, you know, we want to look at the condition of the fields, and, you know, has there been damage done? Do we need to fix something? So yeah, I'm open to this kind of stuff, and I think it would make things better in the long run, obviously.
I see the timeline on things kind of evolve through the course of the year in terms of when fields are utilized more and so forth, you know. So, you know, checking McNally Field in the dead of winter is probably going to be as frequent, but in the summertime or springtime with baseball and things like that, it would be a more frequent sort of kind of checking with regular use, just to make sure that things remain operational and in good condition and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'll, you know, Rob, first of all, I want to say thank you for you being open to work with us on this. I think ultimately, I totally agree with you that your job will be easier, because you're going to have a list of things that, you know, you will have participated on defining, and it's going to be your list of to-dos, and it becomes like your recipe for success, if you will, because, you know, this is sort of like, you know, to be on top of parks, knowing that we are doing a good job with parks, we know we got to go through this checklist. So it will take some of the ambiguity away from what is that you have to do, what you're responsible for so forth. Another thing that I think, you know, it's a small nuance, but it ends up having a financial aspect to it, is when we start collecting information and data about this type of maintenance, we start learning what is the real financial needs of each park or each facility. Right now, we're again very reactive. When we need a new fence, we do a new fence. When we need a new sign, we need a new sign.
But if we are able to collect data and have that information, with time, we'll know that when we buy a sign or we put up a new fence, probably in 6 years, we're going to need to do a maintenance of that will probably cost X percent of a new fence, and it becomes very powerful for us to plan. Another part of having something written like this, and that we are also collecting information about the frequency of what we are doing, is that it gives us the information we need to give to the town when the parks needs more money. Because right now when we go, and I've seen this discussed in several town meetings at different aspects, there is this money that goes to park. How is that broken down? What do we use the money for? So having that information, we hire people to do X, Y, and Z. We spend X number of hours doing, this and that and that. I think will also give us information we need to say, hey, parks needs more funding, and it'll give us the opportunity to have that conversation with the town manager. So again, we appreciate you being open to this, and it will be a much stronger document if you're a part of it, because you're the specialist on this, and we would be happy to do some of the heavy lifting regarding this document. It could be, if you were fully staffed, you could say, I can put this together and deliver it to you, but you're not fully staffed ever. So I think as a Parks commissioners, we can help with that, with your input. I think we'll probably land in a really good place that will be very beneficial to you and to the town in many different ways.
Rob, I have a couple of questions. In the grand scheme, it all comes back to maintenance anyway, but Susanna, and you may be able to help me with this, because I'm not sure my memory is 100% correct on this. A few years ago at Marshall Park, we had, I believe it was a water leak, and it wasn't caught by the water department my guess is that it happened at the beginning of the billing cycle, and it wasn't caught until their system picked up a leak alert, I guess it's called, towards the end, and the bill was massive. Is there a way when, if somebody goes down to walk Marshall Park to check to see what's going on down there, is there a way to check on our own water meter to see if there is a leak? Because the leak had to have been coming in after it hit our meter.
I can actually talk to this a little bit. I know from my conversations with Kit Walker, we talked about this incident, and because it came up that he mentioned to me he had to get out there, and he needs to, the service gets turned off in the winter, and the water district actually comes out and shuts the water off out wherever it comes into Marshall Park. So it's shut down in a couple of places to prevent that from happening over the winter. Now, it's not to say that couldn't happen after the service has been turned back on. Obviously, there's more people out and about in the park at that point. So I think from that standpoint, at least over the winter season when the park is, fairly dormant and the water service is shut off, that's been happening since I think that incident, and to prevent it from happening again. I don't know if it just never was done in the past or how it was handled. But again, that's something that would be added to the list of things to do, within whatever procedure we come up with, is to make sure the water services are shut down, irrigation systems are winterized. As far as checking the meter, you can do that. I mean, it's hard to say just by looking at a meter, having been the head of the water department in my last job. For any person just to go out and look at it, you'd have to then compare it to the previous reading with the water district, and that gets to be cumbersome. So, I mean, it's not a bad idea to do. Sometimes irrigation systems break and leak without really going noticed because they're in places where you might not just see it unless you were standing right at it. So that's a hard one. I mean, it's really hard to plan like that and prevent extreme water usage unless someone's really looking at the site. Sometimes meters, and I don't know what kind of meter we have, but they have a small dial that spins whenever water is being used. So you can look at it and see if water is being consumed, and if none is being consumed, you know there's a problem somewhere. That could be, I mean, if you felt strongly about it, that could be certainly added to whatever kind of document or guidance we come up with.
No, I'm trying to avoid that, I'm trying to avoid that situation again. I mean, it's expensive. It's an expensive bill to cover when that's, when you're not anticipating it. And, I don't know anything about the way the water, work in there. So
I can call them or email them tomorrow and find out what our monthly rate usage looks like, or, over the past 2 years, maybe. And maybe every time before a meeting, I can just call the day before and see what we used the month prior.
I don't even know if that would catch it, Susanna, because I think that, no, because this was a significant, this was a significant, like, if I remember right, it was like $8,000 or $9,000. It was a huge bill. And I can remember it because the call actually came in to me, and Jack said, "Here, can you deal with this?" I was, "Ooh, okay." And at first I was like, "Sure," because I wasn't prepared for what the water district was going to tell me. And then I talked to her, and I promptly called Jack back and said, "Nope, this is out of my pay scale." So I was just trying to figure out if there was a way to,
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, from my own experience, there really isn't a good way to do it other than just a visual. If you know the field is irrigated, to, something to look for in a weekly walk around the parks is to make sure you don't find any, weird sources of water. Or you can even go in, I don't know where the water, I don't know if it comes into the shed building that's there, down kind of between the Little League field and the T-ball field. But I mean, you can even simple as stand in the building, and if you're the only one there and the parks aren't being used, do you hear water? I mean, because sometimes the service, you can hear it at the meter. So I mean, you can include that, and that's something, that could be done. It's something, it's not necessarily going to prevent any kind of water break.
Right. Understood.
But at least you'll catch it much sooner than, racking up an $8,000 water bill.
Right, understood. My next question is, the school department uses I don't know if it's through School Dude or what it's through, but they have a way for staff to report when there's issues. Mm-hmm. If we get something set up, I believe Kayla said this was an option on the MyRec platform. Is that something like that we could, because usually I find at least the people that are bringing it to my attention and the rest of the commissioners' attention are usually just members of the public that will send an email and say, "This is broken, this needs to be fixed, I noticed this." It'd be nice for them to have a way to report it and remove us as the middle people of that. If she sets something up like that, can she, I would assume they would just go to her and then she would, forward it to you. Is that something that would be acceptable to you?
Yeah, that's fine. One thing I might be able to offer is we just recently were signing up for a facilities maintenance software system that's a cloud-based software, and we're going to use it for all the town buildings and I assume grounds, but it also has a work order component, and I believe I can, once it's set up, I can invite users to be, authorized to create work orders or submit them. I mean, we can also see how that works, and I could at least have you, Karen. So if something comes into one of the commissioners, if it's not you, if it's one of the others, as long as it's passed on to you and you submit the work order, we can do that as well. So it's not in place yet, and I'm not sure how long it's going to take to implement the setup of it, because they're going to kind of, with our facilities, help us set it up and get our part of it implemented. But I'm sure we could include a kind of, a parks. I'll just include parks and facilities, and we can set that up. Or if it's easier for Kayla to do it through the MyRec.
It doesn't matter. It would be nice for, people in town who, who are regularly at the parks to be able to say, there's something wrong. Because what happens is they email us, and then, we email whoever
Yeah, it gets,
get it taken care of. It does get lost in the shuffle sometime,
Yeah.
but, you know, if we were to say to them, you know, if they see something and we say, oh, there's a spot on the website to report it, and then they would, you know, be able to jump on the website and report it, they remember that for the next time, especially if it's one of those things that you know, you see somebody say something on social media that say, oh, you know, the basketball court rim is bent, then, you know, we can say, oh, just jump on the website and you can submit it this way. It just, you know, it makes everything run a little bit smoother when, you know, they're.
Yeah.
And for the groups that are using the fields, like
Yes.
the baseball teams and so forth, it could be part of their contract or whatnot, that any issues should be reported through RevTrack
Mhm.
at this site so that it's centralized and things don't get lost in the, you know, in the shuffle going between you or Kayla or wherever, you know, wherever they get reported to, like, just to make sure that it's all captured.
Yeah, I guess that sounds a better way to do it to me. If the general public is allowed to be able to, you know, alert us with it, because obviously I can't have the general public on this software we're setting up for the
All
town.
kinds of work orders.
Yeah, I'd have a million work orders. So, which would be okay, but I'm not sure we're staffed to handle that kind of volume. So, yeah, if it went through my rec, that's probably a much better idea. And then you could allow, you know, other users to put it in. So yeah, and I'm perfectly open to that, because it's a tracking system. You're less likely to have stuff fall through the cracks.
Yep. Okay, great. We can talk to Kayla on that.
Karen, I think too, once we get this up and running, signage at the parks would be crucial. Basically, just a small sign that says, if you see an issue, contact this website or whatever. And then the public will do it right from standing right next to the sign with their phone if they see an issue.
I mean, the ultimate goal here, right, is if we're going to be working on creating a document that we reviewed a little bit ago, you know, that there hopefully won't be too many opportunities for the public to have to report something. I mean, that's the
Right.
ultimate goal anyway, but it's, you know, it's a good way of, it's just a good way of people being able to directly report it, you know, and that way Kayla would be able to keep track of it. And if she had, you know, if we said to her, how many reports of maintenance issues did we have and what's the resolution on them? We'll know that because we're out in public and we're the ones bumping into people who will say, oh, I reported this, was it taken care of? It would just give us an easy way to, you know, determine whether it was taken care of. So great, thank you on that. Does anybody else have anything?
I had a couple of questions on the, just when I went through that maintenance bid that you had, Rob, a couple of things stood out, and it may be lost in the verbiage, but with the spring cleanup on page 5, does that, like, one of the things that it didn't spell out necessarily was like the court, like basketball courts and baseball, like I'm assuming the baseball fields are covered by the grass, you know, open space kind of deal or whatnot, but like the basketball courts, just someone got to the leaves at Wallace before one of the volunteer groups got to the leaves at the Wallace courts, because there were leaves like all around the whole fencing, and that was going to be one of the things that they were going to tackle, and all the leaves were gone when they were down there that Saturday. So it was nice to see. So it got taken care of. It was gone, but just making sure it's part of the spring cleanup. Spelling out that there's two areas at the town beach for weeding. There's some mention of town beach weeding. I just want to make sure it's clear that there's 2 areas.
Yeah, I mean, things like the finer details, like, and not to interrupt you, Chris.
Yeah.
The finer details, we're going to have an opportunity to work with the contractor.
Okay.
So, you know, we're going to make sure those things are getting done. As far as like the spring cleanup at Wallace, you know, on the basketball court, things like that, all the parks are included in the contract for spring
Okay.
cleanup. And generally the spring cleanup, the biggest thing is, you know, cleaning up leaves and debris
Yeah.
and other
Yeah.
stuff and prepping. So, you know, working at Wallace, the basketball courts will be slightly different than, you know, over at McNally, where it's, you know, mostly turf-based maintenance. So while it's not necessarily, and it may be spelled out, it's been a while since I've read through it.
Sure.
But all the parks are definitely called out, and we'll have a I believe we'll have a pre-construction meeting, but a pre-contract meeting, and, you know, we'll just make sure they're aware of everything. And, yeah, so I haven't read through it in a while, but
Sure.
I'll make sure
There's a breakdown of the various spots on, I think it's page 10. And the only things that stood out to me, like Veterans Park wasn't mentioned and Wallace wasn't mentioned. So it breaks out like McNally, it broke out, various locations, but there was no mention specifically of Veterans Park or Wallace, if I'm recalling it correctly.
All
So I
right,
just want to make
I'll-
sure those are listed in there.
I'll take a look.
And I think it's a subsequent list, like those subsequent years, I think you mentioned. So that's page 10, 11, and 12 or something like that.
Okay, I'll go through it, and if something were missed, we'll get straightened out.
So just to circle back on this, properties, on this policy, Rob, with the information that you gave us, if we start building that document with this information that you gave us, is that a good next step for you?
You mean building off of the bid document
Right.
to come up with a policy? Yeah, I
Right.
mean, it's, and that's kind of why I sent it along, just so you
Right.
could see what's kind of expected, at least for the maintenance side of things,
Mhm.
during the growing season and, between spring and fall cleanups.
Right.
So it could be a starting point. It could, if turf condition based on what the contractor's doing is important to monitor and make sure he's doing a good job, then yeah, I mean, you can go in other directions based on that contract. But yeah, I mean, certainly start with this.
Okay. All right. We can start building on some of that, and because this document is not for that purpose, there might be some other specific things, like the basketball courts. I think my examples were rim, paint, and we'll break it down by property and trying to add some of the other items that are nuanced to each property.
Yeah, certainly, because this doesn't cover, like, what's the condition of the dugouts or something
Right.
like that. So that's not in here, but, there's certainly going to be other things, the fences,
Right.
rims and things like that. And
Right.
so
So
yeah,
you're okay if I think the document you sent us, like it's going to save us a lot of work. And then on top of that, we'll add some other things that are specific to each property. And we'll try to maybe add some of the seasonality, some of the things that should be more seasonal. And we'll probably reach out to you for your feedback on some of those things.
yeah, and I'm happy to go over it, because I may have other thoughts or ideas or things to add, or yeah. So I'm happy to work with you on it. If you put together a first pass at it,
Okay.
and want my input, I'm more than happy to take a look at it.
Okay, and that will be helpful, right? Versus asking you to do it.
Yeah.
Like our goal is to be, we want to get to the finish line. But if this is something that you feel like you'd rather do it because you have the knowledge, you're on the ground, we want to be supportive on helping getting this document to the finish line.
Yeah. No, I'm happy to let you do it.
Okay.
I'll certainly give you my input on it, and if I think you're overreaching, I'll let you know. If I think there's other things we can add or do, I'll let you know as well. I think what I will do is I'm going to do my own research just to, see if there's other documents like this out there, because you can, as you can find anything on Google. So someone may have already gone through, this effort, and obviously it would have to be customized to our parks and our facilities. But maybe I'll learn something in the process. So I'll spend some time on it as well. But I'll let you, I don't mind having you put it together, and, I'll recommend whatever I see fit, and
Perfect.
we can do this together.
All right. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
If I could make a couple of comments.
Yes, go ahead, Dave.
One, the main request for repairs or issues, or however we come up with a name for it, that coupled with the report that Rob and the commission was talking about earlier, if we could have something that updated the commission on a quarterly basis, whether it be generated by Rob and presented to us by Kayla, or if Rob chooses to do it himself. I think that is a good step just to keep us up to date on what's going on, so that, as Karen said earlier, we're the faces out on the street, and people know who's on the Parks Commission, and when they have an issue, they're not bashful to come right up to you and say, hey, what's going on with this or whatever. And it's really nice to have an answer for them. The other thing is, now anybody else disagrees with me, that's fine. But I think this whole process is born out of the reactive mode that we've been in for a very, very long time. And it's this commission's determination that we will not let that fall back to that type of an operation. And we're not looking to step on anybody's toes. Rob, you have the day-to-day operation, maintenance, and so on of the parks as your prime responsibility. Ours is for policies. But if we can work together, then I see everything becoming proactive rather than reactive in a very short period of time. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. All right, does anybody have anything else they want Rob for right now? So he doesn't have to sit on a meeting all night.
Rob, just to thank you guys, as we're not to the Earth Day deal, but thank your crew for picking up everything that was cleaned up during the Earth Day stuff. I'm going to try and set up a thing at Marshall for this Sunday. The rain didn't cooperate last Sunday, so I'm going to try and do one more about this Sunday down and kind of clean out the basketball court some.
Yep. No, and
So I'll let you know where we'll pull stuff up to Chestnut and let you know if there's stuff there.
perfect. And I actually wanted to take just a minute to thank you specifically, Chris, and I'm sure others were involved as well, but all the help, and I don't know if this has been a yearly thing, but all the help was greatly appreciated. We got lots of good feedback. People commented, hey, this was cleaned up nicely. I drove around and the kids did a great job. So, thanks for spearheading that, and hopefully we can expand upon it as the years go by.
Quick question to both of you. I walked the few sections of Marshall Park this past weekend. I needed to get out and stretch my legs. And I did specifically make a point to go down to the basketball court. Other than non-organic materials that are sitting on that court, is there any reason why we can't just scatter that out into the forest outside of the fence? I mean, leaves and twigs and that kind of stuff, instead of hauling it all the way up to Chestnut Street.
That was my plan this weekend, Dave, because half of the stuff that's in there, it's not like some of the leaves I'll pull up and we can bag those, but a lot, there's piles of basically compost in there.
Right, but even leaves, forest floor
it
is
can be
appropriate for leaves.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's fine as long as we're not, infringing upon a wetland area or a buffer zone or anything like that. That's the place to put it. It does make good compost, and I don't mind taking bags of compostable material down to the landfill. But yeah, and I've talked about this with my crew when they've been out doing some of the cleanup. I think it's on the other side of the Little League field. There's a bit of a slope, and they were pushing leaves over the slope. So wherever we can, that's fine. I have no problem with that.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's fairly dry outside that back gate of the basketball court. There's a perfect spot that hopefully we create a walking trail in the next year or so.
I have a question that I don't know, because it might show that I don't know everything about parks yet. I was at Wallace Park and I saw a trash can there. Now, I thought our policies, we don't have those.
You want the story behind that?
Okay.
So when that park was being built, the design and layout came from Chris Letarte. He had done all the legwork on that, and
Right.
he thought that a trash receptacle would be great down there.
Mhm.
So he had it put in the diagram, and nobody caught it. So it went in. And now it's there, and it's concreted into the ground. So it's not like it's one that you can just go down and remove it. And it was right around that time that we created the carry in, carry out policy. That said, the carry in, carry out policy does not work well at Wallace Park.
Right. And that's to be expected. I mean, when you go hiking in trail that has a lot of people, you'll not find trash. It's just a mass thing once you start getting a lot of people going around. Okay. So maybe we should revisit the trash policy and make it more based on location. Because if we have a policy that's not working, it's a bad policy.
Well, I don't know if I'd say it's not working. I think that I don't know if, Rob, you've been finding problems at other parks, but I don't think I think it, for the most part, it's working. Little League's responsible for their own trash, so they're doing their trash removal. I don't think we have a big trash problem any place other than Wallace, and I could be wrong on that.
No, I think you're you nailed it. I think the carry in, carry out for the most part works because we don't have trash cans in most places. So I think most people do take it with them. For whatever reason, the basketball court at Wallace seems to be, people just leave their Gatorade bottles and stuff behind. So it is a bit of a problem there. And I know my guys go out once in a while and clean up trash. And
would it be better if we have town canisters there? Why not?
No, because in my experience, as soon as you put a trash can out, it opens up. It becomes a dumping ground. You'll find, old TVs. You'll find people will dump their bag of trash in it, and it just becomes a dumpster for people to use. And it becomes more. I mean, if we have trash cans out at Wallace, if we put some out, we'll probably have to be down there every day checking them. And as soon as you don't check it, you start to get complaints, and it just becomes an issue. And that's probably, I wasn't involved with it, but that's probably why the carry in, carry out policy came to be, was because it just becomes it's a nightmare.
And even that can that's down there now, the one that's concreted into the ground outside the snack shack area, yes, it gets full, and that does have to be periodically emptied, but the cans and bottles that are being left around the basketball court, they're not even making their way into the trash that's already there. That I find that most of the trash that ends up in that barrel is either coming from somebody that's gone over and picked up the trash around the outskirts of the basketball court, or it's just stuff that's been generated on the playground. Do you know how often that trash has been emptied at this point, Rob? Like, is it weekly? Is it?
I don't know. I think Joe just sends someone out to look at it once in a while. I can find out. But I know we've had that discussion in-house because it came up at one of the conservation areas. Someone thought it was a good idea to put a trash can out because people were leaving trash, and we just had to say, we can't. I mean, if we start putting trash cans out, it becomes a full-time job for one of my guys, and I just can't do it. And in my own experience, it becomes a problem with people bringing trash specifically to dispose of it there. They're not using the park, they're just getting rid of trash.
Is that happening with the current canister there is on Wallace? Are people leaving regular trash there?
I don't think so. But I just know it becomes that way. Maybe it's a bad example because that one's not being abused.
Right.
I mean, I would love to have a trash can and people use it for what they're doing, but I think what Karen mentioned is the bottles and stuff, the trash that get left in the basketball court, they're not even bothering to put it in the trash can. They're just,
right.
It's an abuse, if anything, by the people who are using the basketball court. And honestly, adding a trash can, unless you put it right in the basketball courts, it's probably not going to get used for that particular purpose. But I think I'm happy, honestly, with the carry in, carry out policy. If it means we have to go clean up the trash at Wallace Park once in a while, I'd honestly rather have to do that than
the trash on the Wallace Park or the basketball court?
The basketball
Okay.
court specifically.
Okay.
I don't think there's generally much of a trash problem around the entirety of the park, just within the basketball court.
Okay. Because I hear you. I hear us on why the policy exists the way it is, but once you start getting a lot of people in, it's going to generate trash. It's just what it is, and and those courts are heavily used. So there's just more people there. And although we want everybody to have the standards that we wish them to have, that's not going to happen. So, you know, I don't know if there's something we can do that maybe they incentivize people to just do the bottles, because I think that's probably most of the trash. Maybe, I don't know, but if there's trash on the floor and you have a policy of carry in, carry out, and more often than not, that's not the carry in, carry out is not happening, that's not a good policy. Like, it's, you know, I have an example of laundry. My laundry basket, I tried to put it in the most obvious place and it was not working. It was always dirty laundry, dirty clothes spread out around the house until I put it, the laundry basket, where the clothes were. So then it worked. So, you know, if there's trash in a trash in that location and we have a policy that's not working, I just generally speaking, I feel like we have a problem. And maybe if there is a can on the far out of the court that someone's going to dump it, it's going to be, they're going to have to walk across the court and it'll be kind of obvious and, you know, something, but maybe we should experiment something, have a different way to try something to see if something else works. And to see if we get a better result.
We can work on it. I mean, we can certainly, things can always be changed. So
Right.
let's put some thought into it and figure out, obviously this is an issue. It's an issue. It's been an issue for years. This is not the first time we've had this topic brought up. We've had complaints of trash over there from residents in the area. You know, let's see if we can come up with a way to fix it. I'm not
Right.
sure what the best way is going to be, but yeah, let's
Maybe we can do like a redeem machine. Every time someone puts a can in, they get 5 cents out. Nickel. There we go. I was looking for that.
Yeah, perfect.
It's,
Perfect.
you know, but anyway, okay. So
I will
go
say in general, I was pretty, because going around the parks and looking ahead of time to identify potential projects that volunteers could do and so forth. I was surprised at how little amount of trash there was around our parks. There wasn't. I envisioned it being more of a, hey, you're going to go through and clean up all the trash here, and you're going to clean up all the trash there, and it was more honest, compostable material that we were moving around than anything else. There was a little bit of Wallace, but not much.
I've sent people down to Wallace. I had a small group of kids through National Honor Society that needed some hours that had contacted me, and they just needed some quick do it on their own at their own time thing. So I sent one kid down to Wallace. She went once or twice, and I sent somebody else over to Marshall, and I literally just said, just pick up trash. Let me know how many hours you did, and I'll give, sign off on it. So, and that's the other thing too, Honor, is that there may be some National Honor Society kids in that area that are looking for regular hours. That might be a solution, but we can put some thought into it, and we can we can convene again and figure out how to make it work down there. So
we've pretty well covered the Earth Day cleanup summary.
Thank you.
So I just want to since we're basically rounding that out, and Rob said, I just want to acknowledge a few groups that helped out. The Boys and Girls Club cleaned up at Marshall Park. They're the ones that started the basketball court kind of cleanup here. They also cleaned up the Pocket Park next to the dog, next to the old dog pound. My daughter's Girl Scout troop 64501 cleaned up Veterans Park, and Project 351 led by Emily Begley over at the high school. They had 18 kids, and these kids, I envisioned it being a series of kids from Lunenburg High School, and it wasn't. It was kids from Sudbury and Westford, and they came from everywhere, getting dropped off by their parents and clean. And they were cleaning up at Wallace and McNally. So just to acknowledge those groups that did help out. And then
I think I wrote down those names, but if you think of anybody else that was out there helping, and even I know we had a couple of families that might have helped.
Yeah, I might have a conflict on Friday. I think I have to go in my office on Friday, so I'm not gonna be around, but I had a family that wanted to go tackle the town beach on Friday. So I was gonna try and connect with Kayla and see. I know she left the key for me last week, I think, at your office, Rob, and they couldn't go last Friday, so they wanted to go this Friday. I'm gonna try and finagle that with Kayla and see if maybe she can let them in or something.
I may be around too. You can reach out to me,
Okay.
but I'd like to
Alright.
get some, I'll have Kayla send some thank you notes.
But so, yeah, those 3 groups. And then my plan is to post on Facebook here at various Lunenburg pages to do something on this Sunday to try and clean out the more of the basketball courts. Then we may need at some point, Rob. So we're going without power tools and so forth out there, but there are some actual trees in the fences at the basketball court. And there's a
Okay.
couple of spots that I think are before we maybe allow use of that, the one court, there's a tree that's kind of leaning on a fence that maybe construed as a liability if it did happen to fall further. We probably want to clean those sorts of things, but we can clean out what's there first and then go back and
Yeah.
take a look at that.
I can take a look at the basketball court and see if, if there's trees or limbs and stuff that, can come off fences. We can probably tackle that. When are you planning on going back out there, did you say?
So I'm going to try and post it for this Sunday and just get a group out there, a group of volunteers just to kind of handle the piles of this. The Boys and Girls Club created actually a series of piles of brush and so forth. And I had gone out there myself and started trimming away the fencing with clippers and so forth. So trimmed a lot of that away and got some piles going. So we're going to try and thin that out this Sunday. And then I can circle back with you here and kind of go from there. The only things that we really, that's the stuff we can't tackle would be the tree limbs, basically.
Yeah, and that's something I think we can certainly take care of. If I don't want to waste a cleanup out there, so we'll do the heavy lifting on stuff that you guys can't do.
Cool.
Great.
Regarding Earth Day, I also want to acknowledge Chris. You organized this whole thing, and you've been working with the various groups and organizing. So I want to say you're the most valuable new member of of the group. I personally want to thank you. It's amazing how much work got done with your efforts. So I appreciate that. One
Nice.
thing I want to correct you is not that is not the dog pound. That is used to be just the pound. Back in the old days when you'd find a loose cow or pig, you go and lock it there, and then if someone was missing a cow or a pig, they'll go there to see if it was there. So just as a historical
It's the
fact.
origins of Facebook then.
Yeah. So
Good to no, it's been a great crew of people that have been out there and people have been eager to help out. So it's been great to see. So
Yeah, that's all cleaned up. I hope we can get a couple of picnic tables dropped there. I don't know what we've got in storage, Rob. I've never had a clear picture as to what's stored away or what's placed where.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I've only poked my head into the trailers and stuff up top at the DPW, and I don't know where everything is. So we can certainly poke around some more and see what's there. I know I can ask around. I
yeah,
know
if you
that.
see a picnic table or two, that would be cool. Yeah.
Sure.
Or
Okay,
maybe-
thank you so much.
if you don't, let me know. I'll start hitting some local businesses for donation of picnic tables.
Great.
That might be the quickest way to get it out there because some of the ones in storage might be in pretty tough shape.
Yeah, I don't know in the last, if there are any in storage, because I have to wonder if we even have any in storage, Dave, because when we put picnic tables over at the beach, they were ordered brand new.
Right. Those
And I
were
would have thought
the
if-
ADA compliant ones.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, all
Okay.
right, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, so Anna, we'll cut you loose. See if you can come up with a couple.
Okay.
You're welcome to stay, Rob, but don't feel like you have to.
I'm gonna run, but
Awesome. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Rob.
yep.
I got
thanks
a
for
couple of things. I'll hit you up on email after the meeting.
Sure.
Great.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Have a great meeting.
Thanks.
Thanks.
All right. So on the maintenance policy side, do you two want to, you guys have done so much already. Do you want to continue sort of building on the conversation that we had tonight? Do one of you want to bow out and somebody else can jump in? How do you guys think we should handle this?
I'm happy to keep going with it if Anna is.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I think what we kind of learned, there are some things that obviously we're not gonna be able to speak to. What are the things that annually need to happen to close down a park or open a park and those sorts of deals that, he would, and I feel like that might be a separate I think we're kind of talking about two different things a little bit. You know, that's a work manual for his crew in terms of, you know, shutting off the water valves or turning on the water valves and when that happens and so forth. I don't know that that's what we're talking about, but in
Right.
the inspection of that stuff to make sure it's working and checking regularly to make sure we don't have water leaks and looking at the fence gates and the basketball hoops and those sort of, like, identifying those sorts of things that don't necessarily fall into you know, a work manual, I guess. And then just identifying how frequently those things are reported and, you know, the proper channel to go about that. And I think that RevTrack sort of deal sounds like that's the easiest way to go about that. You know, but I think we want to, you know, establish that with him to set a timeline on things and how quickly and have a realistic understanding of how quickly repairs can happen and you know how they happen and things like that. So
Yeah.
Right,
and-
so if you guys need help on something, feel free to, you know, reach out to somebody. Once we get more than 2 people involved, it does become a quorum. So we need to be mindful of that, but certainly, you know, if there's questions that somebody else can answer, I'm certainly happy to help get those answers.
Okay. Yeah, Chris and I can make a plan offline on how we tackle this, because I think the paper that he sent us is a good starting point for us.
Yeah.
And
I think that, I think
ahead.
it should have a lot of, I think it should sort of be a mirror document anyway, because as a commission, we should be checking to see that they're on track and on schedule. And we can be giving them reminders and double checking seasonally too.
yeah, I think, you know, I agree with you, Susanna, that it's like, you know, Rob just said, like, there are a lot of things. If he's the guy who leaves, who does the irrigation, he won't know what to do or what the pace that he does. So it may be more information that we technically need, but if this is a good one solid document that can have that information, that can be a resource, why not? If that's what it happens. You know, these type of documents, it can go as high level or as details as you like. And if we have the information, we can get more details in, and maybe not on everything we're going to get a detail to the same level of detail, but
Yeah, no, I think I think this is a long time in coming. We've been ready for one of these, so I'm very appreciative that you guys have done this legwork so far. I think it was great to have Rob here tonight. I think he understands what we're trying to do. And I think we're all mindful of, you know, what we're trying to do. So I think we're off to a really good start.
okay. So is it okay if Chris and I just plan
Yeah.
something offline? Okay.
Yep, absolutely.
as soon as we have a picnic table, we can sit outside down by the pond and
Yeah,
I know.
right, it's like an in between for us.
And if you wait till if you wait until the 30th and you're both vaccinated, you can sit outside with no mask on together. You know,
Crazy.
I think that's a new state policy. I don't know.
It is.
All right, let's jump over to our next agenda item, which is the 2021 beach season and hiring. I would like to do the hiring first, only because I know that Jared's here. Another one of our potential hires was on a few minutes ago. And I know that they're both interested to see how this goes down. So this is what's come in from Kayla. These are the people that she has interviewed and spoken with. So I'll give a quick breakdown. So we had one applicant for our beach coordinator position, and that is Jen Nass, who would be a rehire. Currently, she had 7 applicants for lifeguard. She had 8 applicants for lifeguard, sorry, with one of them only looking to do like a per diem type situation. So she does have those down, and those folks rehiring would be Jared Bowser, Ethan Gengler, who has worked for us for a number of years, as well as Paige Gengler and Liz Simeone. These are, one is Jen Nass's daughter and 2 of them are her grandchildren. So she's filed the proper documentation to allow that to happen. The One that's looking for per diem is Lynn Major. And then the new hires would be Nicholas Coronella, Isabel Winslow, and Olivia Colstrom. So the way this works for everyone that's new is that we make a recommendation, and if we recommend all of these folks, I then send it off to the Board of Selectmen or the Select Board, who then does the final approval of this. And at that point, they would be contacted by the town to make sure all their paperwork and their query and all that kind of stuff is done. Kayla did say that even with this group of people, that she still has the availability to hire 2 to 3 more lifeguards. And that there's going to be another class running May 30th, June 5th, and June 6th at Orchard Hills. So if anybody's listening and they're interested in that, check out the Lunenburg Rec website. Space is limited, so sign up would need to happen fairly quickly for that. And if she would interview those, anybody who passed who was interested in working at the town beach, she would interview them after that class. And then she'd come back in front of us again to hire, you know, those additional 2 to 3 lifeguards. So that's what we are looking at. We are looking at a rehire of Jared Bowser, Ethan Gengler, Liz Simeone, Paige Gengler, Lynn Major, and new hire of Olivia Colstrom, Nicholas Coronella, and Isabel Winslow. Does anybody have any questions, concerns?
I have a question. Does Kayla feel that this is the right number of hires?
She does. She'd like to see a couple more, which is, you know, why the position will remain open until she feels that she's got enough. She'd like to see, some of our lifeguards have worked a considerable number of hours over the past few years on a weekly basis. And she'd like to see that brought back down to a normal range, you know, 40 hours or less. And some of these kids, you know, some of them have other jobs and we're not their sole, you know, their jobs. So by having some extra lifeguards on, and it spreads the hours out a little bit. And she does feel that we have room for 2 to 3 more lifeguards, and hopefully we can get those from our next lifeguarding course.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to rehire and hire the new people. Is
Excellent.
that all you need?
Second.
Thank you. All right, so let's do a quick roll call vote on that. Does anybody have anything before I vote this?
Technically, this is a recommendation from this
Yes,
commission
correct.
to the town manager to appoint these positions and approved by the Board of Selectmen.
Yep.
Just to clarify the
Yep,
steps.
sorry. Yep, Dave is correct.
Should I reword that?
Nope, that's okay. So we're recommending your motion is to recommend the hiring of the 3 new hires, as well as the 5 rehires, plus the rehire of our beach coordinator, Jen Nass.
Correct.
Might be worth including seasonal in there because they are seasonal positions.
Yeah, we can, but it's on the hiring.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
section, so. All right, Chris,
Aye.
Susanna,
Hi.
Dave,
I'm
Anna,
I
and it's an I from myself. All right, so Jared, you know the drill. I will let Nicholas know, because I was just chatting with him. So the next step is it goes to town manager and board of selectmen, and then you guys will hear from the town or Kayla or somebody. So the other piece of the beach for this year is the rental policy. If you have the copy that I sent you, oh, I'm missing a piece. I sent it out back in early April. I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at it.
is this the updated?
This is the updated one, and I'm gonna fill in the blanks on a couple of them. I'm just trying to open my email. Bear with me one second. Did you? Okay. Sorry, I thought I had it printed and I didn't. All right, so the one that I sent to you folks had a couple sections of red that I wanted to be clarified by Kayla. So there's no changes in the first section of that we call applications. The changes come under fees. And that is the beach house and grounds would be $50 an hour with a 2-hour minimum. A non-refundable $50 deposit is required. 1 lifeguard is required per 25 people at $25 per hour. Lifeguards are required for beach rental during beach season. A minimum of 1 lifeguard is required. Additional lifeguards may be required depending on the number of attendees. So that's what will be under the fees section.
So there's an additional sentence beyond the red that's listed on the one you sent out.
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
cool.
Yeah.
But
Sorry.
perfect. That's not, no, that sounds fun.
And let's see. I just want to make sure she got,
There's the acceptable activities line.
that, I don't think she changed that. So that's,
We changed it to outside the water, I guess, or something. It looks like.
is it not changed on what I sent over, Chris?
It's no, that's in red. I'm just pointing out what was in red, I guess.
Oh, okay. Yep. Yep.
No sports activities will be permitted outside the water.
Correct. Yep. So that would be outside the water. And then I think she hit all the other pieces. Let's see. Non-refundable. Yeah. Cancellation clause.
I have a grammatical correction
Yeah, go ahead.
under alcohol or glass containers. I think it should say are not permitted. Sorry, just a.
So alcohol or glass containers, alcohol and glass is not permitted. What do you
I
want?
think it's alcohol and glass are not permitted.
One of those, huh, Chris?
Just to, nitpick at grammar, I guess.
That's okay. I'm gonna
It's Catholic
change,
13 years of Catholic education. They did grammar well.
I'm just gonna change it while I'm
I went through the same thing, but it was in Portuguese, so I can't help it.
let me just double check one thing. So it's no sports activities permitted outside the water. Is that how we wanted that? On page 2, there's acceptable activities. Currently, it reads acceptable activities allowed at the Lunenburg Town Beach include but are not limited to private functions and special events. No sports activities will be permitted outside the water.
On the grounds outside water.
That sounds like you could have sports in the water though.
I know, that's
Well,
what,
can't you throw the ball around? I mean,
I think
can you go
that was the
swim?
discussion we
No.
had. That was the discussion we
No
had
ball
last
throwing.
time, right?
Can we
I
go
think.
swimming?
No swimming.
N- What? Wait, you can't swim? That's a
so,
joke.
That's a joke,
If I throw
sorry.
up a
Okay,
volleyball
okay.
net on the beach, I'm gonna get thrown out.
You can stick your toe in the water and stand there.
That's it.
Enjoy the beach.
Okay, swimming is a sports activity.
I think
It
this is
I
the
don't
discussion
remember
we
what
had
we were
last time,
trying
which is
to
why we
limit.
changed the sentence, I think.
we did, and I'm wondering if I missed something.
Clear it up though.
Because can you not throw a ball in the, are you permitted to throw a ball in the water? I've honestly never been to the town beach, so I have no idea.
Chris, get your bathing suit ready. I think we should be entering boats in the cardboard boat race, you know?
The Parks Commission vote.
Although I'd probably be the one to go down with the ship, right? Doesn't the chair have to like go down with the ship or whatever it's called?
Has to be the only person in it.
Okay, hold on one second. So the question is, how do we want it? I don't know.
What do
how
you,
to-
I guess the question is, what are you trying
Overthinking
to
it.
control? Yeah.
Well, we're trying to control, originally it was no sports on the beach. So like if kids were there with their parents, we didn't want them playing soccer, throwing a baseball or whatever while on the beach. Because number one, the beach isn't really the correct, it's not, it's got an incline. It's just not an appropriate location to be doing stuff like that. But then that turned into, because originally it said on the grounds, but then that turned into the whole discussion on, well, swimming is a sport. And if we say that there's no sports on the grounds, then we can't have swimming. So we're probably overthinking it.
I mean, the thing about on the grounds usually has it talks about the whole property. But maybe if we just change it to the beach area, to the sanded area, no sports activity on the sanded area, on the sand area, it will address that concern.
Yeah.
I mean, again, English is not my first language, but I think the grounds is a very broad term, and that might be what's throwing us for a loop. So if we just say no sports activity on the beach area, which is defined by the area has sand on it, might solve our problem.
What about distinguishing between water sports and land sports or something like that? Some verbiage like that.
Yeah.
Only water sports permitted within the grounds, on the grounds.
What if we just left it with no sports activities will be permitted outside the water? And if there's the lifeguards aren't going to allow anything in the water to go on that's going to be a safety concern to others.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's one of the reasons we have lifeguards there would be to keep an eye on, anything that's getting a little out of hand.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think I would say, let's just leave it as no sports activities will be permitted outside the water.
I don't think we need to overcomplicate it.
Yeah.
We're really good at that, if you didn't notice.
Yeah.
Well, you wanted
I have a little bit of an
permission of
issue
five.
with that, but I won't fight you on it.
No,
And that is, I just wanted to make the statement, and then I'll leave it alone.
go ahead.
An entity is leasing the beach area, whether they lease the beach and the building or whatever. I understand if it's during open beach hours and the public is on the beach, that we don't want them throwing footballs around or basketballs or whatever they're going to be throwing around. But a private event that has use of the beach, the lake, and the lake house, the beach house, I think should be allowed to do anything that's safe to do. And
So
if it's
I don't
tossing the ball back
disagree.
and forth.
I don't disagree, Dave, but the beach itself, if we were talking about a regular beach that was flat, but we're not dealing with I feel like the shape of the beach itself limits that ability. I mean, I know some kids will do it anyway.
Okay, so we'll tell them they need to stand in 2 inches of water if they want to throw a ball back and forth. That's fine.
But it's probably the flattest surface.
Yeah.
I don't
agree.
mind.
You can amend that to say outside the water unless
So here's what-
previously.
It does say that. So this is what this whole section says. Acceptable activities allowed at the Lunenburg Town Beach include but are not limited to private functions and special events. No sports activities will be permitted outside the water. If interested in sports activities on the grounds, coordination may be made with the recreation department on a case-by-case basis.
Oh.
So if somebody wanted to rent it and play football, I suppose they could just say to Kayla, we want to play football on the slope of the town beach.
I mean, I could see someone wanting to bring like a beanbag toss sort of game thing or something like that. That would be feasible. But they
Tough
could
on that
just
slope.
not my problem.
Well, you guys tell me how you want it. I'll change it.
Karen, I honestly
I think
didn't
it's good.
remember. I didn't remember the back end of that.
It's okay.
Anything I read more than 2 weeks ago is ancient history to me right now. So I'm comfortable with the way it's written.
So you have the flat space that's up above. Is that? I mean, that would be where you could do the beach game or whatever sort of deal if you're renting.
And then, trip, fall, and roll down the hill to the
Yeah.
water. Yeah.
Well, it's all fenced in though, isn't it?
Well, you have the flat part. So the beach is sort of flat and then it dips down.
No, I mean the other side of the building,
On the
picnic
playground
area,
side?
kind of like
Yeah,
the picnic area or whatever.
yeah. The
So then there
play,
is space there. But again, if it's
I don't even know what
you
they'd
know,
be spaced there for, to be honest with you. I think
if
it's
they're
picnic
renting space
table.
there and they decide they want to do an activity, it's in here that says
Yeah.
you can coordinate with Kayla to do an activity.
Yep.
So that's fine. I think we're covered.
Yep. Does anybody have any changes on this, or are we ready to get this one motioned and approved?
And you have that red line at the bottom, no non-refundable deposits going towards the
Yep.
final balance cancellation
Um,
policy.
Yep, she has that. The only thing I guess I didn't see was,
She said, although we not discuss, we may want to add something that the deposit will be refunded
I
if
thought it-
recreation needs to cancel.
oh, there is
That's not
something in
much
there about, let's see.
Oh, it's there, the last line, number 4.
Yeah, to cancel or reschedule
Yep.
event that requires.
So we're covered. That's fine.
Does anybody else have anything? Anna, did you have something to add?
No, I was just gonna say, I think we did discuss cancellation policy last night.
Yeah.
Which
I
we
think-
found it was
So-
good.
I think we're good.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Dave makes me nervous because he suddenly is off screen and I'm like, where did he go? I
He's back.
make sure he wasn't on the ground.
Sorry.
Danny, you
No, I'm
seconded
not on the
that?
ground, but a lot of maintenance, minute by minute, this late in the day now.
Not a problem. All right, so we have Chris motion to accept as written, Susanna seconded. If there's no more discussion, I'll do a roll call vote on that. Chris?
Aye.
Dave?
I,
Susanna? Aye. Anna?
I,
And an aye from myself. Great, that one's done. All right, so the next one, hopefully this is a quick one. Dog policy at the parks. This has come up a couple of times in the last month or so. The current policy that was a straight across the board blanket policy when it was decided on a few years back was that there would be no dogs allowed, or it was put to pets. So no pets allowed on parks properties. And that had originally stemmed because we had a whole bunch of people that were letting their dogs go into the softball field and using it like a dog park off leash. And they were leaving a mess everywhere. And it was like, a minefield when the girls would go out to play softball and coaches were spending forever picking it up. So we had made that policy, but now we have some folks that are interested in bringing their dogs to the games just to watch from the sidelines, not out on the field. So we put it on there to see if the commission wanted to entertain changing it to include just the ball fields versus the entire park. That would allow them to, if they want to walk around the outskirts of the Chestnut Street fields on the old cinder track, they could do that.
And that still happens. I mean, I see
It
that,
does. It does.
pretty regularly.
Yeah.
I brought up the other day because I was caught. There were several dogs at the baseball game that were there. And then when I was driving home, middle of the day, the start of April vacation, I noticed a couple of dogs out in the middle of the field before games had started and so forth. So it just kind of caught my attention.
Well, they shouldn't be on the fields. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that,
Right.
courtesy should be that people don't bring their dogs onto the field. I mean, it's just, especially if they're not going to pick up after themselves, but you know how that goes. So
Biggest question for me is the liability. What's the liability?
I don't believe there is any.
So I just want
Double check though.
that would be my question. I'm a dog owner. If I was going out to watch a, son or daughter play a sport, I'd love to sit there on the sideline with my dog on a leash. That would be fine. But what's if there's a liability to the town or anything, if my dog decided to bite somebody or like that, because I'm allowing, because the town has allowed dogs to be there. So that would be my only question.
but
I personally don't have a problem if the dogs are leashed and they're on the edge of the, you know, off the fields and owners are picking up after themselves. Yeah, you know, but I just, the liability question. And I just want to avoid, we get into the, you know, the cemetery commission's having a big issue with the cemeteries with dogs walking the sand. People just aren't cleaning up after their dogs. So I just want to, you know.
Yeah, let me go back to town council then. That's not a problem. I think I saw an email today that his hours were
They have
out.
hours coming up, yeah.
Let me pose that question to him and see if there's an issue.
One thing
I
I'll
don't-
add is that, oh, I'm sorry, Susanna.
Go ahead, Anna, go ahead.
Okay, I'll add is, I don't think the town has per se a leash law. So I don't know how would necessarily,
We don't have a leash law, we have a restraint law. So,
Right.
and actually,
no,
that is,
I know, let me just finish.
yeah,
There's some type of law, it's not necessarily a leash law. It says your dog has to be, you know, either respond to you, it cannot be alone, and yada, yada, all the details. My question was going to be, can we make a law, a rule that is different than what the town is, that would supersede what the town bylaw is?
you mean, can we create something that says they have to be on leash?
That's different than what the town says, yes. So that's my question.
So I will ask that. I'm pretty sure that the answer to that is probably yes, because we're watching other boards make decisions on different things, but are, you know, are different than other parts of the town, like conservation and their hunting stuff. I'm actually looking at, hold on one second. So the restraint law is no owner or keeper of any dog shall permit such dog, whether licensed or unlicensed, to become a public nuisance within the town at any time. And then it goes on, you know, and there's, you know, gives a example of this. I believe that this means that they have to be under the control of the owner if they were on public property, because they're off of their property.
Right. Yeah, so being controlled can be a voice control, like a super well-trained dog, which is not like Tinkerbell at all. But the other thing is, you know, I think no dogs allowed in parks. I think that's kind of tough. Like, you know, Marshall Park is beautiful, and going for a walk on the park, with your dog is kind of ideal. I think staying off the fields is fair.
All right, well, let me do this then. You know, I put it on and didn't give too much thought to it, and I probably should have. So let me go back. I'll ask about the liability piece of it. And then I will see what he says, and then I'll read the policy some more, the restraint policy, because I know that I'm looking at it right now. You know, a dog's considered a nuisance when on public school grounds and not under restraint, but it only says public school grounds. It doesn't say anything about, you know, public grounds. So I'll do a little bit more digging. If anybody else wants to join in on that fun, feel free. And I'll grab a spot with town council and ask him about the liability piece of it.
The question in the meantime, if our current policy is no dogs are allowed, that's not being followed by groups that are using the parks?
Yep. So what we can
does
do
that need to
is,
be communicated to them saying this is something we're looking at, but at the moment, no dogs
Yep.
are allowed?
yep.
And he was a
So I'll
super
have-
cute golden retriever puppy. He was adorable, but
I'll have Kayla go back, just so you guys know, when this came up, when Chris first emailed me about it, I was sort of surprised we had somebody on that 90-foot diamond, because that's not typical on I think it was a Sunday,
yeah.
have somebody on that 90-foot diamonds. For years, we didn't have any use of that diamonds. But this year we had an AAU baseball team. I believe they're out of Southern New Hampshire. They've rented the field for their season. So they're playing quite a few games over there from the looks of their schedule. So what I can do is I can have Kayla follow up and make sure that all the groups that are using the fields in an organized manner know. The other folks that are just out for a walk, I mean, that's really hard to enforce because we don't have anybody down there to
police it, right?
police it.
Right.
So,
If I had to vote for it, if I had to vote, I would say that we should have dogs on leashes there if they're there at all.
I would concur with that for sure. Yeah.
Even if it's just for a walk.
okay, so I will, I'm just making a note because if I don't write it down, I will forget about it. So I'm gonna ask about the liability and if we can require leashes since we don't have a leash law in town. So can we create a policy requiring something if it's different than what the town
This is
has?
a policy. Yeah.
Am I phrasing that right, Anna?
That's what if our,
I think ultimately the way we'd word that and make sure that town council's okay with it is verbatim, use the ordinance that's available in town, but in addition to require that they be, don't say just a constraint, that they be on leash at all times. You know, something to that effect. Ultimately, what I'd like to see, if we're gonna try to increase usage, especially at Marshall Park, we need to open this up to pets as much as.
Fine with it. I think this is gonna be the
And I think it's
same.
just the grass areas that are the issue. And if
Yeah.
we're really, put our foot down about the grass areas and find a way to enforce it a few weekends of summer, I think the message will get across.
Yeah, I mean, I think where it's a sort of like, to use a similar analogy, would be the basketball courts over at Wallace. You know, we ask that trash get picked up over there, or even if we say it's carry in, carry out, but it's not working over there. It's what we have right now isn't working over at Marshall for a handful of people, but at the same time, opening it up also leads to more opportunity for people to bring their dogs and not pick up after them, putting us right back in the same position we were in. So we may
well,
need to-
there will always, it goes back to, the more you want people to participate and come to the parks, the more of these type of things you're gonna do with it. So, I love to see a bunch of people walking, some of the trails in Marshall Park with their dogs because it's nice. And if the outcome of that, one of the things we're gonna have to do with it is we're gonna have to do with more dog poop. I think that it should, no dogs on the field. I think that's very reasonable. But we always gonna have to deal with something of, an outcome of a policy that we desire. We want to have more people there. There'll be more trash. We don't want to we want more people there. We don't want to. So anyway, so we just gotta get used to, have that in mind, that as people use some of the facilities, more of these nuisance will happen. And we just gotta figure out what's the best policy that is workable versus a policy that nobody follows and we don't have the tools and the ways to deal with them. Because that's the problem, is like, we don't have a trash can now at Wallace Park at the basketball courts. So now we have trash on the floor. Now we got to decide. So, because we don't have a place to put the cans, they just go on the floor. So we're dealing with something else. So you just
It boils. I mean, for me, it's simpler than that. It's just a lack of common respect and decency. I mean, that's what it boils down to. It's not anywhere I go. If I go down and I play basketball at the high school and I drink my Gatorade bottle and I put it down on the side, when I leave, I look around and did I leave anything behind? I do that twice a week coaching soccer practice. Did the kids leave any trash behind when I leave the field? It's just common decency.
like
pick up
we
after
had-
yourself. And the cemetery commission's dealing with it right now. Like
Right,
I
and
walk my
even-
dog through North Cemetery And it's
Yeah.
the same person every time. The dog goes in the same spot and there's a sign there now, and someone from the cemetery commission leaves a poop bag by the sign with arrows that says, please pick up after your dog. And regardless, it was just it's complete lack of decency and common courtesy because that person still does not do it.
Because, yeah,
So I mean,
Good.
it's that's the things we do. But I think if we can, again, I'm a dog owner, so I have no problem with allowing dogs on a leash in any of our parks, assuming there's no liability. But I also respect the common decency and common courtesy of anyone bringing their dog to a park or cemetery or anywhere else for that matter, that they're going to pick up after their dog.
but it's not
know.
gonna happen 100% of the time.
Correct. And at some
And we
point, and
gotta
the
be
cemetery
ready.
commission's making a decision here is if they're going to even allow people to walk their dog through the
Right.
park. And so, and then it's going to come back to that with us down the line.
Right,
Are we, do we change back and say, all right, no one's picking up after their dogs. No
right.
one else needs to be picking up after their dogs. So let's go back and say there's no dogs.
Tried, we failed, so we changed it again, which is
Right.
fine. But all right, let me research the liability legality of requiring leashes, and we'll take it up at our next meeting. It's not a problem, which leads me to the end of our agenda. So first question is, do we have any other public or board comments?
No, we missed Marshall Park planning discussion.
Oh, Mike, how did I skip that? All right, we're back up on our agenda. Here I was thinking we were like,
It's after 8
doing-
o'clock, that's why.
we're doing so good, and then I'm like, oh, we're done. Anyway, all right.
Dave, I think when you were here last month, we were already done, I think, at this time.
After throwing the chair under the bus and everything.
I got through like the first.
We even
3.5
approved extra minutes.
You did. I got like the first 3.5, 4 minutes when I went on the next day to try to catch up with everybody. I'm listening to this, and like immediately I jump on my text message. I'm like, Dave, did you just? No, I think I called him. I'm like, believe you just threw me under the bus, but public comment is listed on there, Dave. He's like, oh, I must.
As I told you, the format, I normally see it at the beginning of the list, not at
Well,
the
I did put it. I did put it
Whatever.
on there
I
twice.
did notice that. I meant to comment today.
That's for you. That's for you. So, all right, so Marshall Park. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to skip that one at all. So, just so everybody knows where we are with this right now, with the request has gone in and it's made the cut on the final list that's going to be presented to town meeting on Saturday. If that goes through, that money would be available on July 1 to start the process with somebody that knows more than we do on creating a master plan. In the meantime, I think what we're doing, will be beneficial. So Chris and I spent some time the last couple of days going back and forth with just a simple survey that we thought would start to highlight things that folks in town think are the most important. Chris, did you shared that with everybody, right?
Sent that to everybody this afternoon. Yep. So you all should be able to open it up.
Yeah, I saw it on Google Docs. Looked like a great document.
Yeah. And I can change the cover. I thought about changing the cover photo, go take a picture of the Marshall Park sign, and we can put that at the top of it or something like that.
Yeah.
If it's feasible, Karen, if you think it's in a good enough form to actually be printed and I don't know about passing things out at town meeting, though, that gets to be problematic, especially this late in the game.
Yeah.
Never mind.
That said though, Dave, I do think that, I'm not sure how we're going to get a survey out to the masses. I do think that a printable version of this needs to be done up. It can be left at town hall, but definitely over at the senior center for, the folks over there that may not be online very often. I think it's I think this may be the first of maybe a couple of surveys. It's not long. I think it's straight to the point. I'm trying to pull it up. I was going to screen share, but
I have it here, Karen, if you want me to. I think I
hold
can
on. I think I've just got it, Chris. Hold on.
do it. And if there were other that was kind of what I was going off a whittled down list of kind of thoughts and ideas in terms of.
Are we able to email to a school list, like to the parent list?
I don't know if the,
I bet the schools would send it out.
yeah, they might, I have no idea. I've never.
They've sent skate park stuff out and things like that. Like they've publicized town activities and so forth. So I would
I mean, that's a
hazard they
pretty
would,
pretty big database right there.
would hazard they would send it out. Or we go right to the superintendent, just
While
ask the
you guys are
superintendent to
working
set
on
it up.
that, when are we gonna pursue the question about if we create rectangular fields, are we just moving a field from one location to another within the school's needs and the town needs? You know, that came
So-
up in one of the meetings.
Yep, the last meeting. So I recently listened to it because I obviously did my minutes off of that. And I did talk with Anna a little bit about this yesterday after I listened to it.
Karen calls yelling me often, so just you all know.
No, I don't. I usually send her a message. I'm like, do you have 5 minutes? Because I need to think this out with somebody. We don't have enough rectangular fields as it is right now. So would we be shuffling from one to another? Possibly, I guess you could say, if you think about moving the baseball field, if the school decided to put one in. But I don't think it's as simple as that. I think that if the school decided to put in a baseball field or a softball field, they may have an area that they could put it that they're not taking away from their rectangular field. So it wouldn't necessarily be shuffling. It would be moving it onto the school campus, which, you know, they may already have reasons for wanting to do that. I haven't talked to them recently about it, but I know that when our old athletic director was on the Parks Commission, you know, he always raised concerns that, you know, it's time consuming for the kids to have to walk down to Chestnut. They can't have games immediately after school because they have to allow the time, build in some time to get down to the field. So there are benefits to moving it onto the campus if that's what the school decides to do and they have room for it. But we don't have enough rectangular fields as it is. They're always taken. And yes, the school has rectangular fields we can use, but as good practice for, you know, on the side of the school, we can't get out there. The Parks Commission couldn't run a soccer program at 4 o'clock in the afternoon at the schools because they're still on those fields. So we don't have that luxury right now of having a rectangular field. I do, after talking with Anna, question whether or not, and we'd have to look at the overhead again, could the 90-foot diamond not the outfield, but I guess the side field be extended over more towards the cinder track? Maybe can some of the land going up to where the bathhouse used to be, can that be leveled out to make a rectangular field and a 90-foot diamond in one spot? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that because I
Pretty
don't.
large space, what's over there now. I mean, it's a pretty significant patch of grass out there.
But you know,
That-
one thing,
Yep, go ahead.
you know, I just want to make it clear, like, I wouldn't see the benefit. This is my main point. I wouldn't see the benefit for the school to convert one of the rectangular field to a baseball field. So then we can only turn our baseball field into rectangular fields. There is no net gain.
Right.
But if we,
For who though?
for the town,
Well, there is a net gain for the town because then it's a parks property, not a school property.
Correct.
So then the school wanted to use it, the school would have to come to the
well,
parks
the
or town to
funding
use
is
the,
all, the
use it.
funding is all the same. It all comes from money that we collect from. It's
Correct. But the channels in which you'd go through would be totally different. So if we run, I play adult soccer in the fall
Mhm.
through the parks program. It's $30 a head for 10 weeks or whatever it is. So Kayla has to go to the school to secure the field space and get permission for us to use one of the rectangular fields for that adult soccer program. Or I did it last fall with the kids. I went and went to the school to ask for permission and they gave us the turf to use last fall for 2 different groups of kids. If we had a rectangular field that was on parks property, then we would parks, as we've already laid out with field use and so forth, parks programs would have priority use of that rectangular field. I'm hearing what you're saying. Like, I don't think anyone wants to jam anybody up and do something out of, just the sake of making a switch. I think.
Right. I mean, I think it would be great if we have if this is a conversation we have with the schools and say, we're looking, hopefully after Saturday, we'll say, yes, we have the money for this, and going to the schools and say, hey, would you consider building a baseball field on your campus? And what would that take for you? And what is the time? Because if that happens, voila, we don't have a problem.
We wouldn't do it under the cover of darkness. I mean, it would be a joint discussion with them. And it's one that I know it's been, I don't remember how long ago it was. It was definitely pre-COVID. There were conversations. And at one point, somebody within the school had said that they might even have enough space to put in a softball field, which I also obviously listened to the minutes of the last meeting, and there was a question on, could the softball field be used for, a combination with the Little League? The softball fields are actually very different. Their infield is, I don't know what you want to call it, skinless. I don't know what it's called.
There's no turf. There's no turf to it. Right.
So it's a big open area where you don't have that in baseball. And, when I think of the 90-foot diamond at Chestnut Street, just to be clear on what we're maintaining. And this is not to say that the school's program isn't valuable or that we think anything less of it, but we're maintaining that 90-foot diamond at this point for the sole use of the baseball program, which is a small number of kids and a very small amount of time in it's the spring season. People go to a baseball field and they see the lines, they see the baselines, and they don't go out there and kick a soccer ball around the way you would if it was just an open grass field.
I hate to say this, but my son just spent 4 hours this past weekend with his buddies playing ball on the 90.
Well, I know it's used,
Right.
but my guess would be that if the 90-foot diamond wasn't there, my guess would be that they'd probably walk over and use Powell Field within Marshall. Just a smaller, it's a little bit smaller, and I'm not asking anybody to consider taking out all of the baseball fields. I mean, that's not.
Overall, I support the idea. I want us to be, I hear what Chris said, that different fundings and all, but I just overall, if it's, we are taking a rectangular field from the schools that they use for their games and they rent out, and now we're just moving it to the parks, and then they're building, and we end up with 2, not 3. If there's a way that we end up with 3, I think that's great. Whatever we do, it will be awesome if we end with 3. Going through all the work that we have to go through and the expenses associated with it, and end up with 2, I just don't see, I don't care where the money comes from. It comes from my taxes, period. I don't care. I don't see the benefit on it. Whatever means it gets to get it done. We're paying taxes that somehow get funneled to one position or one place or the other. Doing all the work to end up with 2 fields, it's not something I see a big advantage of it for. But 3 makes sense. The school.
Well, let's talk to the schools. I mean, that's really what. I mean, I think that in the next couple of months, that's going to be a conversation that's going to happen anyway.
Right. No, I fully support that.
So, but on that survey, let me see. I tried to screen share. I don't know what.
It was there.
Was it there?
Yep.
Oh, I'm impressed with myself, but I couldn't see it. Let's try it again.
There you go.
So why can't I see it? Can you see the whole thing?
No, but can you scroll if you start to? Yep. There you go.
Okay.
There you
All
go.
right. All right. So this is what we had, come up with. Are you a resident of Lunenburg? Obviously, that's going to be a yes or no question. An age demographic, just to get an idea of not just, I mean, I'm curious to know how old the people are that are responding to these questions, but I also, for the next question, which was, if you said that you currently use Marshall Park, I'd love to know the age ranges that we're currently accommodating within that park.
Yep.
And then ranking some of the things that we had talked about. Please chime in if you think that something has been missed or needs to be eliminated. So nature walking trails, pavilion picnic area, revitalizing the track, a new playground, rectangular multi-purpose field, basketball courts, baseball, softball fields, improving parking, public restrooms, skate park, access to pond, revitalized fitness circuit, and park maintenance building. Next question would be, are there any ideas for use you would like to see at Marshall that we did not list above? Any other thoughts, comments, or questions regarding Marshall? And then an optional spot for a name. You know, to me, this is pretty simple, but I think it's the first step at gaining information that I don't think we've ever captured before. So I think that would be beneficial as we start looking forward, because I can tell you, if somebody came forward and said that, you know, that they didn't want, if 100% of the people said that a new playground is not important, playgrounds are expensive. I'm not sure we would want to put any time or thought into it. If, you know, the majority of the people we were surveying were saying that's not important. But if they turn and say that it is important, then I would like to see if we can, you know, consider putting those, some weight on those ideas to see what we can make happen. Does anybody have any suggestions, likes, dislikes? We're on the right track, wrong track?
I can't see it. I'm sorry. I'll have to look at my emails. I'm not sure why it's not showing up.
You might try changing your participant view. And
I
then
did that.
the screen might open up for you.
That's Karen ... Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, I mean, you can certainly send over feedback later.
Yeah.
You know,
Was dog park on there?
it was not.
Okay,
Oh,
good. I would rather not have the language be in any of the planning be dog park.
really? How come?
Oh,
No, not here. We had a conversation about that at the last meeting that,
Oh,
you know,
all right.
I think it was my feeling, and I don't know if it was agreed to. But I really think if we're going to sponsor a dog park, it needs to be a standalone on a smaller piece of property and be
Yeah, I feel like it's gonna be an
dedicated as a
attraction.
dog park.
I feel like we can allow dogs without calling it a dog park. You know what I mean?
Okay.
That was part of the discussion. If we were going to establish some trails in there, and you know, leash dogs on trails within the park, we solved the kind of dog park issue there.
Yep. Yep.
So I don't know, what's everybody thinking? Should we do anything with this? Should we sit on it a little bit longer? Should we?
I think we should get it out there as quickly as possible, because this is our first swing at getting some information back from the public. And, you know, once the funding's approved, assuming it's approved this Saturday, then we're 60 days from the money being available. We're going to need to spend that 60 days talking about who we want to send proposals to assist us. And if we have some of this stuff already under our belt before we contract somebody, then some of the initial stuff that we could potentially end up paying a little bit out of that contract on is already completed.
Tennis court. Do we have tennis court currently at the Marshall Park?
We have.
So those basketball courts are lined as tennis courts underneath the earth that's there.
Back in the 60s, they were tennis
Um,
courts. I don't know
yeah.
when they got switched over.
So should we change that from basketball courts to? We could change it to hard surface courts. I mean, I know
Yeah,
they get used if they were basketball courts, but I know that the schools courts are around the corner too. I mean, maybe
Right.
those type of courts might be better for pickleball. I don't. know.
We talked about one of those courts is useful now, the other one's not. I mean,
Right.
you could divide those anyway and have one basketball court, one tennis court. I mean, I think the school tennis courts, there's several of them, they're widely utilized, and I could see certainly at least adding one of those, maybe there kind of deal.
Yeah, I
So you
like
can
it.
change that to say basketball / hard surface court.
Yeah.
So I'll tweak that.
I mean, we got enough space on that property. We could do both.
I tried to take the list that I had seen from people's kind of whittled down list from the initial kind of list of 25 things that we had, and we tried to kind of condense that. So I don't know if I'm missing something from anyone else's thoughts and so forth, if there's anything else there. Or Karen said anything to come out.
And I think it looks good. I think the fact that it's not a long survey, I don't think we need that yet. I think this, again, this is the first time we will have surveyed folks in town to see what's important to them at that specific location. I mean, I think that I think parks in general, where it's such a community-wide thing, that it's supposed to bring in the community, I think getting their feedback is important. It would be nice to eventually get feedback on a larger number of our properties, but I think this is a good place to start. And I don't think it needs to be super detailed, right down to, rate this from 1 to 10 on what you think is most important, and 10 being the least. And, I don't think we need that pecking order. I think this will start to,
We get rid of that because you couldn't read the words next to it.
yeah, that, well, I meant more like if you had 10 things, rank these 10 things in the order of importance to you. I don't think we need to go that.
That's what I
route.
was trying to do, but then they just wouldn't fit.
Yeah, your first one, I'm like, Chris, I don't know what you're trying to say, but I can't read this.
Everything cut off.
Yeah.
When you're in the edit mode,
The
you can
other
read it all.
thing, the other thing is hopefully this is going to generate some additional uses and or ideas. And then, that's when we take our second pass at it and see how those additional suggestions fit into the overall area of the park. Once we get into, I'm going to say the 1st of June, I think, and I'm not computer savvy enough to do or have the time to do this right at the moment, but if there's a way that we can get a screen size drawing, picture, satellite picture, whatever, of Marshall Park that whoever has control of the screen can scribble on. And I'd like to see us spend a half hour or more in a meeting as we get closer to the 1st of June, and start circling areas where we think, well, this could fit in here and that could fit in there. And, we've talked about the skate park. We need to start making some decisions on whether that is going in to that wooded area or not. Those types of things. Then we can start to visualize what the park's going to look like if we reconfigure it. And again, that's another document that with somebody helping us with the engineering side of it, they'll say, well, that's not a good idea because of this or that or the other thing. Going a little bit beyond the survey, I think we're going to want to end up with restrooms at that park. From my knowledge of the Board of Health and the Sewer Commission, we've got 2 options. One is fairly cut and dry. The other one is a little bit skewed right at the moment because I realized the other day that Marshall Park is not within the sewer district. It's carved right out of the map. So if we wanted to come in from 2A with a line for public restrooms, we're going to have to figure out with the sewer commission as to how that could happen, if it could happen.
Well, the sewer goes by 2A, right?
Doesn't matter because park itself is not in the district.
No, that I understand.
Okay, yeah, but yes, it does. It's a-
Okay, so
on
so
the way
it's a
at the end of the
question,
driveway.
yeah, so it's a question of extending the sewer district to include the park versus having to build the whole infrastructure to get somewhere. So I think that's a easier,
Well, there's
Is-
pros and cons to both. And we have an existing septic system on that property that allows us to do an upgrade rather than a new system under Title V. And Karen's aware of this. I don't know if any of the other members are. I know of some funding that is sitting that I think I can pry loose to get that to happen. So we do have two basic options.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we could get restrooms in there at some point, I think that's great. And they could be, I always worry about restrooms being unlocked 24 hours, but from what some of my research and other things that I've been looking at the past few weeks, there's timed locks on restroom doors so that, it could be closed during, overnight hours. So no, I think restrooms would be great. Chris, the only other feedback I have on this is I noticed at the top, it said something like Marshall Park Capital Plan. I think.
Yeah, I know what to call it. I just kind of made
I'd
that up.
probably call it Marshall Park Master Planning Survey,
Got it.
like that. Do you want a description?
That's what I was just starting to type up there. So I was,
Anna, did you read what I emailed over to you today?
which one?
The little blurb about what Marshall Park is.
I started to
for
type
the-
up, I said, the Lunenburg Parks Commission is seeking community input regarding Marshall Park while we embark on the initial phases of a Marshall Park revitalization plan.
Yeah.
Please take a few minutes to complete the survey below. We appreciate your time. The end.
I think the more we throw in revitalization and community in any of our communications going forward is very important.
Chris,
Yeah.
do we know if there's a way to stop a person from taking the survey 1,000 times?
I can look, let me see if I can.
That is a setting, but it's a setting
Setting.
that's easy to cheat.
Thanks, Anna. Thanks.
So I can collect email addresses. So you'd have to put one in, I think,
But then it's not anonymous.
but then, yeah, then it's not. So we left that as an
I guess
optional.
I'm just
If
worried.
someone
about-
wants to fill the survey at 1,000 times.
Well, I'm just worried
Yeah,
that,
are they-
somebody might be like, oh, if 1,000 people answer this question with this and they keep submitting, I just would like to not have a skewed survey. I know it's happened in the past with some other surveys that have gone out. I don't know, we can look, I mean, you have it on a Google Doc right now, but we could always even move it over to a Survey Monkey. And I'm gonna guess that Survey Monkey probably has something built in. Or I wonder if that MyRec platform even has the option to do a survey without having to be logged in. We can certainly ask Kayla. But if everybody agrees and doesn't think that there's any significant changes that need to be made, I can get in touch with Kayla tomorrow and look into getting this out there, and then we can throw it up on social media. We can, because she can email all those people that have registered so far for accounts. She can email them with the survey. We can get it over to Little League. I'm sure that they would disperse it to their people because they are one of our prime users over there. So, we can do that. I just didn't want to do it without the consensus being that's what we should do.
Yeah, I'm happy to reach out to the superintendent or something and ask if they could include that in, either the individual schools' weekly memos, or if she could send it out.
Social media.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's 16 Lunenburg pages to post to.
So is everybody good with the survey the way it's written right now?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you, Chris. Again,
I
I'll go
know.
take a photo of Marshall Park, like the sign or something like that, and we'll switch that to the top. And I'll
Do you
try
have,
and put
like,
this
a
into
Superman cape?
I can get this into a Word doc. I mean, simple enough.
Do you have a Superman cape that you're
No.
wearing that we don't know of?
No.
'Cause, I mean, clearly the new guy is trying to impress the old people. No,
the new girl, not as much.
I appreciate all
I'm
your
not in
work.
the, I don't have the Groton Road Race right now. So I have a little bit more time. I'm not managing 300 volunteers for the Groton Road Race.
Gotcha.
So it
gotcha.
is, it's freed up a little bit of time, but I did take on the COVID oversight for all of LISA travel soccer.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, because I don't have the Groton Road Race right now, but that's smooth. It's been smooth. It's been going well.
That's good. Better than
So
our
no.
season's going. So that's a
So
good thing.
no issues there.
Awesome.
So that's what I wrote at the top. Everyone, as I make the edits, everyone should be able to click on the link and they'll see the edits. I think as I make them. So
I shut mine down. I can
that's
go
the
back.
sentence I put was the Lunenburg Parks Commission is seeking community input regarding Marshall Park while we embark on the initial phases of a Marshall Park revitalization plan. Please take a few minutes to complete the survey. Also, I'll add the community. I'll put the word community in there again, Dave, and say community survey below. We appreciate your
Great.
time.
Sounds good.
Yeah, no, I think that looks good.
And below.
All right,
That's-
so we're
that's
good
that.
with that one. All right, now are we, so I do want to throw in here, I have texted with Anthony a couple of times in the past few weeks, so I don't want him to forget about us. He had initially, a month or so ago, asked for another meeting with Skate Park and Parks Commission. Although I have no issue with that, I am thinking that I want to put some time into coming up with a solid plan for them so that they're coming to us and it's beneficial on both fronts and it's not just everybody hashing out the same old stuff time and time again. They're not ready to break ground right now, and we're not ready to have them break ground right now because we're not even sure where this master plan is going to lead us. So I think that Dave's idea of, putting everything out on a, the big screen and drawing everything in where we think it could go. I think that's a great idea. And I think that until we start doing stuff like that, they know that they're welcome to come to Marshall Park. That I think we should just, encourage them to keep working on their stuff, knowing that they have a home within Marshall if that's what they decide to do, and that we'll continue to work through the details of where that location would be, getting their input as needed, but really trying to get this master planning going with whoever the professionals are that we're hiring, to sort of have them give their, put some eyes on it as well and see if they agree with the direction that we're going. I just don't think it makes sense to bring them in and, hash everything over for the last 2 years again. I don't know if anybody feels differently and wants to meet with them one-on-one. I mean, if certainly they say that they they have to have a meeting with us, then, that's a totally different story. But I think it's just getting updates from them. And they did give, for anybody who didn't see it, the select board meeting of a few weeks ago. I don't have the exact date. If anybody wants it, they can email me and I'll find it. They did give an update. I think they were at $75,000 and, they gave an update during that, that meeting. So, and I can ask him for, an update that I could give, or if he wants to jump on for a couple of minutes to give an update like that, I can certainly ask him to do that. I just don't think we need to go round and round until we have more of a solid plan on whether or not this even gets through.
No, I think it'd just be beneficial for us fairly soon to, I guess, get a final consensus from them if this is where they want to be.
Okay.
And I don't think it needs to be a big, long meeting. They need to decide. We're on board, I think, with offering a location within Marshall. And I know I walked through with Anthony, and I think Karen, you walked through with Anthony at one point, and there was a spot that seemed agreeable, and he thought might work. Of the few that we had kind of pointed out, there was one that stood out, and that I think would be fine.
Yeah, and that I would put that on a
we need to
timeline
figure
for
out
him.
the size and that sort of deal, and figure out that sort of piece.
Yep.
And go from there. But just so we know sooner rather than later if we're incorporating that, especially if Saturday if funds are granted on Saturday, you know, it becomes more important to know.
Yep.
Thing that
Question.
still concerns me is that if you go on to their, I don't remember if it's a website or Facebook page, one of the views that they have up there available is a design of a skateboard park, a two-phase park. And I forget the square footage, but it increases dramatically into the second phase. You know, we're talking about allowing them to locate wherever we allow them to locate, but they don't even have a set plan as to what they're going to build.
I don't think they can, Dave. So that's part of this,
Yeah.
this whole thing is that I think that the little, and this, again, this is a little bit that I know and how they get designed. It's designed for the piece of property that they're going into. So if for example, they went up, if they wanted to go in up at where the bathhouse was, there's a slope there that could be taken into consideration. The skate park would be designed around that slope. It's a skate park is one of those things that can be designed around the piece of property that it's going on. So it's difficult for them to, I believe the design, and I haven't looked in a while at their site, I believe what they're showing on their website is things that would fit in over at TC Passios. So moving over to Marshall, if that's what, you know, their consensus is, and that's why he needs to know where we would allow it to go, because it's difficult for them to plan something if they don't know where they're going to go. Are they going in on a hill? Are they going in on a long rectangle narrow piece? Are they going in on a big square piece? Like, what are they going in on? So I think that's why you're seeing that, is that their design is for
I will say that I
TC.
just the involvement that I've had with them in the past, even prior to you even being on the Parks Commission, I've never heard them talk about with any sort of enthusiasm a dual phase kind of process of building. I think they want the plan that I've heard all along has been build it, done, not build it and then go through this 5 years again and try and add on to it kind of deal. I think they want a one and done sort of scenario.
Although I think they want one and done, I think that the reality may be starting to hit them that financially they're not going to have the money to do that. Or at least have the money to do that in a timely fashion. And I don't want to speak for them, but I know that, you know, when they've come in front of various groups and they give an update on what they have available for funding, it's not making gigantic jumps. So I think at some point they're going to have to, you know, they're going to have to make the decision on building what they can afford, and with possible potential for a second phase if that's what they wanted, and if that's what we would support, because we didn't support a square footage of this yet, and part of that is, you know, going to be dependent on where they go. You know, I don't know, but my thought was to, you know, go back and talk with Anthony, and yes, get that final consensus. Do you want to come here? And if you're coming here, then let's do this and let's make sure it's done right. And, you know, the discussion will start from the beginning. But what I don't want to have happen is start a master planning process thinking that they're coming in and then them say, no, we're not coming in. Right. So I do want to sit down and have that conversation and then get his timeline of what they're looking at, not just from their skate park side, and sort of have compared to what I know our timeline is, which is going to be, you know, when the master planning is going to take place and, you know, things like that, and start comparing the notes there. So we can see if we can get on the same page time wise. But yes, first we need that consensus that this is where they want to go.
In my mind, once we start scribbling on the paper about what we want to place where, honestly, I've got in my mind, the old bathroom area and that whole section of the park ready to commit to something else unless they commit to it early. The other space that you've looked at with them, that can be, you know, pretty flexible right up to the end of the planning. but not that piece on the, where the bathrooms used to be. That's
I
gonna be
agree.
the first to be, crossed off the list by us. Just out of necessity to move forward with the floor or ground plan for the park.
I was understanding what Anthony was saying. The only spot within Marshall they were interested in was the spot kind of coming in from
And
the
that's fine.
from
and
Mass
that's-
Ave, just beyond the
Yep.
stone wall, that kind of behind the playground and in the trees there.
And in my eyes, that's the easiest one to be flexible. late
I think
in
it
the
addresses a lot of their
process.
concerns too.
Yeah.
In terms of accessibility and visibility, because you're going to thin out the trees there and so forth. It's right off a 2A. There's sidewalks that come all the way down from the center of town, right, to the entrance.
Yep.
It addresses a lot of the, the concerns there, I think. So
Agreed. So I'll go back to them. Let me go back to them and have a conversation. I'll point him in the direction of this video so he can hear what we talked about. I'll see if I can get them to make their final decision so that we're not waning back and forth on whether or not they are or they're not coming. And then just, work with him to create a timeline of what would work for them, what would, I think would work for us in terms of knowing, the master plan. Because I think as this month progresses and especially getting into June, if this passes at town meeting, we'll start having a better idea of what a timeline looks like for Marshall, at least for the planning process.
The other thing to keep in mind, at least has been my goal from the beginning, is, there's been a few comments about taxpayers' money. No matter where you get it from, it's taxpayers' money, but I'm looking and confident that we can get this funded through grants, the actual project itself.
And we very well could. I actually meant, it's probably tomorrow and I didn't sign up. That park grant that I know Open Space had mentioned a few times, they actually they're doing some online thing tomorrow. And of course, Karen dropped the ball and I forgot to register for it, even though it's on my calendar. So I may look at that tomorrow and see, because I think that's one of the grants that we would be eligible for. So we'll figure it out. So, all right.
So with this survey, what are the steps we're taking with the survey at this point?
We're just gonna publish it.
Okay.
Let's double check though, Chris.
Everyone read it tonight or whatever, and take a final skim through it, I guess, maybe.
That's fine.
I'm comfortable with it, and you
way it
had
is.
the edit that you added to the
I
beginning.
know,
of it,
like
so
Susanna
that's
couldn't
fine.
see it, so I want to make sure Susanna takes a look at it
Yep.
and so forth. You're muted.
I saw it on my computer while we were all
Okay.
talking. All
Okay.
set.
Chris, the only thing I guess I'd like to see if we can look into to see if there's, whether it be SurveyMonkey or somebody has the ability to do it so that it limits the number of times an IP address can fill it out. And
Yeah,
it may not
I
be.
didn't
a
see anything
possibility.
in the settings that I could limit that when I was looking at this now. I think we're going to know, like, if this survey gets 1,000 results, I think we know something's askew. Truthfully, I've,
Yeah, we got
So-
1,000 answers that says we want a mud wrestling pit.
I hope we don't get that. Because I know that SurveyMonkey has the ability to do IP restrictions, but I'm not sure, if they do it on a one-time thing, but in
Gotcha.
here nor there, I mean, if it looks like we don't have valid information, then we declare it an invalid survey.
we're not bound. Yeah,
We-
we're not bound by the survey.
Exactly.
Do we need to say that at the top? Like, this doesn't bind us to anything? Like,
No, 'cause we're not saying how exactly
we're
using
just
it, so
soliciting.
Turn the thinking down.
Yeah.
All right, so Chris, we can get that finalized and get it over to Kayla and we can start pushing it out there and get some responses.
Okay.
And see where it goes.
And I'll send that to the superintendent then.
Just make sure it works before, make sure somebody takes a survey before we do that. Because it would really stink to send out a survey and then find out that it's not working.
We can test that with ourselves.
Yeah. So, all right.
I'll do
And-
that tonight. I'll send that survey to everybody here so
Okay.
you can test it.
So if you see mud pit, you know that was me.
That was Dave. That'll be the test. That's how we know it works. If it says mud pit.
All right, great. I had high hopes that this was gonna be a short meeting, clearly. And
Before
not.
9.
Not with this
It's
group.
before 9. I you know, I
It's
don't
a
know.
win.
We have a new arrival tonight, so it's just one of those things where I'm like, oh, we're gonna be short and sweet, and then we're not, and I'm like, oh, where is she? So anyway, all right, so next, does anybody have any public or board comment while we finish up and go to set the agenda for the next meeting?
No, I'll send out a note just to solicit stuff for Sunday to get back over to Marshall Park, but that's the only other.
Sweet. Thank you.
No, I don't do.
Susanna, you look like you're ready to say something. Okay, he's good. All right, grab calendars, people. What do you want to do in May?
I'm ready to say something about scheduling.
Okay, go ahead.
I think we need to pick a day of the month and stick to that unless there's an absolute reason we can't have the meeting on that day. There's
fine
too
with
much jumping around, too many accidental
That's fine.
forgets. So
We had only done it this way. It had only switched to this way. Back, I think it was Susanna, Dennis, and myself, because Dennis and I had kids playing sports, high
Yep.
school sports. So that's why,
get it.
that's the only reason we had jumped. I'm fine pick a day and that week every month and we can do it. I'm fine with that.
Are Thursdays out?
Thursdays for me, just so you know, as long as we don't do the second or the third, are fine.
We do first Thursdays?
I'm stuck coaching soccer
Oh.
practice on Thursdays. It'll go till 7. I'd be late. I could get here, but I'll be late. I go till about 7:30, 7:45
Is that good
on
Thursday?
Tuesdays and Thursdays, but that'll end in June, mid-June.
It makes no difference to me. I don't know, what's the better day of the week for you?
You're
You're
muted. We didn't hear you, Anna. You're muted.
Any day works. I like the Zoom thing because you can just log in, so.
Yeah.
Um,
What are Wednesdays like for people?
I'm good Wednesdays or Thursdays. Susanna, Wednesdays are tough for you?
It's just harder on days when I have the kiddos and it's like I'm supposed to have put Mabel to bed like an hour ago or almost an hour ago.
So what days of the week are good for you, Susanna?
Thursdays and Fridays, but probably Thursdays. But I can just make sure I bail at 8 or 8:30 and on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday if we do them then. I just can't stay till the end.
Will somebody tell me, we can either do the
I think-
first,
I think Wednesday or Thursday sounds like the two best options.
yeah,
It's just.
no, that's fine.
and
Let's
for
do first
Chris-
Wednesdays. I'll just have to bail, that's all. It's fine.
We can do the first Wednesday, but we are not doing it the first Wednesday in March because that's next week. I mean, in May.
May.
Next week. So,
So do you want to do last Wednesday then? So we meet in May?
Yep.
want to do the last
that
Wednesday, in the month?
What is that date?
That may be better anyway, because then that removes the like July 4th week.
Yep. Yeah, that's May
Um,
26th.
Okay.
That's before Memorial
Yeah,
Day.
May
So that is
26th, it's
fine.
before Memorial Day weekend.
Good.
Okay, then June, it pushes us to the 30th. No. What was that? It's supposed to be a Wednesday, wasn't it? Yes,
June.
30th, June 30th.
Yep.
Then
then
July
July
28th,
August 25th.
August 25th.
Are we ever going
Yeah.
back to in-person meetings?
I hope so.
Go back to what? Oh, in-person meetings? Well, me, probably not.
Never, Dave. Never?
I'll have, well, I'm not gonna say never, but after July 1, I'll have the backdrop of the White Mountains on my
Oh, yeah,
screen.
that's right. That's- I'm good. You want to try the last Wednesday of the month?
Let's do that, and then that gives us the whole month if we need to throw something in there, like, I think, I don't know, depending on what you feel about the skate park meeting, I think that might end up needing to be a standalone, but if you don't think there's enough content there, then we just throw it in with one of the regular monthly meetings.
Okay. All right, let me, so let's go with the last Wednesday of the month. So in this, for May, it will be May 26th. Do you want 6:30 or 7?
6:30 is fine with me.
Okay. All right, we're gonna do last Wednesday of the month at 6:30. We'll see how it goes, and
Mhm.
I will send out an email for agenda items like I normally do. Some people ignore me, that's fine. So if you have something to say and you want it on the agenda, don't tell me I didn't ask, because I ask every month. All right, so we'll go with,
Karen,
yeah.
with this, would it be appropriate to adjust that on our parks page?
What's that?
Make mention that our
Yeah.
monthly meeting
Yep,
is the last Wednesday of the month.
yep, we can do that.
Okay.
Yes, we can.
I just sent the survey out to everybody to test it, so
Okay, I'll
if we
jump
have a
on.
chance, and
You said
Oh.
mosh pit?
I already have a response. Let's see who this is.
Okay.
Pond. Da, da, da. Oh, it was Anna. Anna just kind of got it.
Did she give a legitimate?
She did
one,
not
or-
ask for a mud pit, so I'm a little disappointed.
All right, so I
Pond will turn into a mud pit pretty soon.
I'll put it, the real deal in. All right, so we are done then. We'll go with the 26th. Watch for my email on the agenda. And I think we are ready to adjourn.
All right, and just to be clear, I gotta go ahead to go get 2 picnic tables.
Yeah,
I'll
go for
fig-
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And whose house I'm dropping that off?
You're gonna drop it off at your house because it's gonna go at the pond next to,
I
Yeah.
walked into that one, didn't I? Yeah.
you did. You did.
If you have them, just tell me, because I'm down the street, so I'll.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I'm
if you
right,
get
you know.
them, if you really do find a donation and they don't have transportation, let me know, because I think I can probably fit them in my trailer.
Okay.
No, I have giant work trucks at my disposal.
My trailer's better than your work truck.
Wow, throwing down.
And I got a 14.
All right, you win.
Oh, hold on a second
He's
now.
getting testy at 9 o'clock.
Dave Passios has a cherry picker now, so, or
Yeah,
bucket
that's
truck,
right.
whatever it's called, so,
Yep.
we'll.
Yeah,
all
we're
bring our-
gonna put up Christmas lights down in Marshall Pond this winter.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, pretty.
All right,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, can I get a motion to adjourn at 8:57?
No.
Motion to adjourn.
I second that.
All right, quick roll call. Chris,
Aye.
Dave,
I guess I'll say aye.
Susanna,
Hi.
Anna,
Aye.
and it's nice for myself. Thanks, folks.
Good night.
Everybody.
Bye.
Night.
Night.